parenting.
That too.
You just hit. That's
And that's a big one.
Extremely so.
Because also, why are families not treated the same way or valued the same way? I mean, there are actually documented reports that say that inherently the black family is somehow deficient and is used to justify the ways in which we treat black families. And
What are you saying deficient?
So, like, for example, the Moynihan Report, for those who don't know what it is, definitely Google it, but basically saying that inherently black families are somehow deficient because of, and they tie it to race. But that report has been used to justify all sorts of laws, all sorts of other actions that we as black people then have to deal with. And it's like, we're not inherent, because on top of that, we are not a part of the system that fundamentally disbanded our families, such as slavery.
Or even when they say, I've heard of the Moynihan Report, but I'm not really aware of what's in it. When they say deficient, do they mean that, are they really saying that black people are like inherently,
less responsible, less capable of raising productive citizens, all that kind of crap?
Are they saying that based on
and that our family structures are somehow less than compared to other family structures, all sorts of things like that?
Are they saying that with a father and mother present in a home? Okay, well that
with
sounds
a father
weird
and mother present, and then also saying that that's the reason why you see more women-led homes, and justifying that black men are not present and things of that nature. All those kind of racist tropes are in that report.
You listen to. Do you want to go?
No.
It's interesting for me. Have you ever listened to like a Thomas Sowell? You don't know who Thomas Sowell is? He's in his 80s now, and he is a scholar, professor, black guy. I'm forgetting where he's a professor at, or where he was a professor at. Really smart guy. But I've listened to him talk a lot, and he just goes, purely academic on it. And he talks a lot about, you should check this out, about how the structure of the family, he's speaking for black people because that's his experience, but he's extrapolating it to all peoples. That the structure of the family is so important, and that the destruction of the home / family, especially in this modern era, like probably 60s onward, is when we really start to see that happen. Because let's go with pre-1970, pre-1960, the marriage rates among black people were the highest, actually. The black family had the best marriage rate. Today, that's not the case. And obviously, divorce is like about 50% right now.
It's like 60%.
Okay, more. So obviously, that's not working out. And we're seeing that. And when a child doesn't have strong role models on either side, that's not going to do them good. And what's interesting for me is I personally think a lot about that, because I have two moms.
Right.
But I had a dad. I was my mom and dad were married for, I don't know, 16 years or something like that. But that was before they had me, and then they had me, and I think they divorced 8 years into me, something like that. And then my dad died when I was in high school. So my most formative years, and he was really, really old. So I got a good father figure, but I didn't get like somebody who was there 24/7, like full energy and that kind of stuff. And my really formative years were created by my mom and my stepmom. And I always think about that. I'm like, well, I turned out pretty well. But I made it a big point, one, to see my dad as much as I could. And then two, I had other really strong male role models in my life. And I think that you don't necessarily need a father and a mother in the home 100% to make perfection, but you definitely need strong role models or a strong unit. And we're missing that today, or it's declining a lot today. And it's specifically declining in the black community.
Well, I wouldn't necessarily say it's specifically declining in the black community.
Let me say the numbers are much lower than they were.
What I would say is that, once again, we got to think about history in terms of black people weren't always allowed to marry, first and foremost. Black people weren't
we're talking post 1970.
Even then, there still have been barriers that have prevented us from engaging in marriages and then also having access to other things that would be able to sustain a family. So then you're dealing with educational inequalities, you're dealing with job inequalities, you're dealing with all these other things that help it make it harder to be able to sustain a family, while on top of that being automatically viewed as negative, which then leads to criminalization, which then leads to all these other problems. That's the reason why all these things are tied together.
I agree. When you say, I'm not aware of the making it hard to marry thing, so if you could let me know what in the era that I'm talking about, because I for sure know in the past, and even like, you know, white and black people weren't even allowed to get married.
Exactly.
Up in Alabama until like 1980, 90, something like that, like a crazy. Now, they were still doing it because everybody kind of forgot, but at the same time, the fact that that law was even on the books is insane. What are you talking about when you're talking black people were hindered from marriage post like 1970?
Even with what I'm talking about is all those things before then made it harder for the post 1970 marriages and things of that nature to happen. So what I'm saying is that you did see a boom in terms of that in the 60s because civil rights movements going on. That made, those things opened up doors in terms of giving people the access and the ability to be able to get married. But also, you're asking people who have had a governmental structure be used against them to then trust it with the creation of families and things of that nature. What is being done to help inspire that? So that's what I'm saying is that, and like I said, this is a very hard thing to be able to contextualize because it's all connected. But that's the reason for why even when we're thinking about numbers and qualifications and things of that nature, it's not all equal. It's not all based on a thing to where you can make these equal comparisons.
The only thing that I have to say to that is I'm still taking into account that the black marriage rate pre that era was the highest out of any race in America. So I don't necessarily understand that, but what somebody like Thomas Sowell is saying is that in this era, okay, now we're like post 1960, what the programs that were being created by the government were actually disincentivizing the family unit. And actually we're still seeing that today, and it's under the guise of aid, but what it does is it creates the incentive to not have a family or have children out of wedlock or something like that for money, to get more money. And all I'm saying is, like, I think that just needs to be addressed, and I think that we need to stress the importance of raising kids properly.